shadows do not scream. They strike, okay? So there's this guy, right? And I do not know his name because he never says anything, but everyone calls him the Whisper Man, I think it is, because he is always surrounded by these wisps of shadow that look like they're whispering secrets to him, even though they're obviously just scraps of darkness trying to stay attached to their master. I was really into it too. It was one of those nights where you can tell things are go well before they even start going well. I was wearing my favorite black dress with the red roses on it, and as the curtains rose, I noticed a man sitting in the shadows to the side. Every night I dreamt of the burning house and the screaming girl and the man in the audience, but he never looked my way in the dreams. Then that they showed up and taped off the house and searched for evidence, but there wasn't any. There were no signs of forced entry and nothing had been stolen. I opened my mouth to accuse him, to demand an explanation, but nothing came out. Some days I think he's dead, and that I'll never see him again. Other days, I think he's still out there somewhere protecting us from the shadows. I was afraid. I was so afraid that if I made a sound, he would kill me. Just like that, just because I had seen him. Finally, he broke the silence. He was a good man, he said, his voice surprisingly deep and resonant, and he didn't deserve this. I wanted to deny it, to tell him that my husband was a liar and a cheat and a drunk who beat me every other night, but I couldn't. All I could do was nod because he was right. My husband was a good man and he didn't deserve to die, but neither did the others, I whispered, meaning the Baron and his family. You shouldn't have killed them either. He looked away. They had to die, he said, his voice flat and emotionless. Someone had to stop them. Then he turned back to face me, and the sorrow in his eyes startled me. Don't you see? He asked, his voice cracking. They were planning to burn this city to the ground. What? I asked, confused. You killed them to save the city. He nodded slowly. All of them, he said, except for her. I couldn't bring myself to kill the girl. He gestured at the flowers in his hands. He loved her very much. I buried them together. Then he dropped the flowers, looked me in the eyes one last time, and vanished. It was the perfect crime, except I knew it wasn't. I knew exactly who did it. The Whisper Man. I knew it was him because when I described him to the police, they agreed that he fit the description of a man seen loitering around our neighborhood that week. A man who, according to the chief, had an extensive rap sheet, including murder. I begged the police to arrest him immediately, but they said they needed more evidence. It was already obvious to me that they had no intention of finding him, of finding the Whisper Man. The eyes spent weeks searching for the Whisper Man, following him, observing him from afar. I discovered that he lived in an abandoned warehouse district and kept mostly to himself. I never saw him speak to anyone, but people in the neighborhood told me that he sometimes talked to the stray cats that gathered around him, even though he never fed them. I wanted to confront him, but I waited. I needed to make sure I wasn't wrong about him, that he was really the one who killed my husband. And when I finally saw him standing over my husband's grave laying flowers on it, I knew I was right. That's how I knew that I had found the Whisper Man. It took a few months, but eventually the nightmares stopped plaguing me, and I could sleep soundly again. Then one night I woke up from a dream, heart pounding, adrenaline pumping, and a strangled cry stuck in my throat. My dog was whimpering under the table, which was odd because he sleeps there every night and doesn't usually make a sound. I called out for my husband, but he didn't answer. I threw on some clothes and ran downstairs. Then he turned and fled. I wanted to convince myself it was an accident, and there was nothing more to it than that, but I couldn't find anything suggesting that it was. I found quite the opposite. The official story said that the fire started in the couple's bedroom, which wasn't true because according to the head servant, the fire started in the living room. The official story also said that the Baron and his wife died in their bedroom. The official story said that the Baron's daughter survived, which was also untrue because she died the same night in the hospital from smoke inhalation. I got sick of dreaming about it, and I told myself it was just that, a dream. Then I got a call from the police asking me if I knew anything about the fire, if I'd seen anything strange that night, and I hung up on them after I told them no because I hadn't. They would have committed me to a mental hospital. I told them it was probably just an electrical fault, and that killed the family. It was dim up in the orchestra pit and down in the audience, but he seemed to absorb the scant light and wear it like a second skin. My eyes were drawn to him. We locked gazes for a moment. I could see his lips curl into a smile, and then he was gone, vanished back into the dark, like a nightmare retreating from the dawn. He wears all black all the time and moves like he's wading through honey or quicksand. This premonition feeling lingered for weeks until I heard about the fire at Baron von Hess's estate. The entire place went up in flames that night, killing Baron von Hess and his wife, along with 2 servants and a visiting countess. The only survivor was the Baron's daughter. She escaped in her nightgown, hair aflame and screaming for her parents. The whole affair was mysterious, especially since the Baron was known for making enemies both at home and abroad. No motive, no accelerants, and no sign of foul play meant that most people assumed it was just an accident, which left me thinking, what if it wasn't? What if someone did kill the Baron and made it look like an accident? And what if that someone was sitting in the audience that night, watching Romeo and Juliet, completely unbothered by the fact that he had just taken 4 lives? It takes him forever to do anything, which is actually kind of annoying if you're ever on the receiving end of it. But you'd be annoyed for about 3 seconds because after that you'd die. So I guess it wouldn't matter much. The first time I saw him was at the opera. I had front row seats, and the play was Romeo and Juliet. I felt unsettled after the performance, like I knew something bad was going to happen soon. That's when the nightmares started, and it became clear to me that the case was a dud. I stood there for a long time, frozen in fear and grief, and then I called the police, so I decided to do it myself. Shadows do not scream, they strike, and I wanted to strike fast. Then he turned and he saw me standing behind him, and we stared at each other for a long time. To this day, I don't know what happened to him or where he went.